At that point, we'll save the rest of the discussion for afterwards, but now I'm going to hand over to Chris. Chris, we discussed this earlier, as an Inverkeithing or Fife-based developer who works mainly with VR, which I think is quite an interesting topic. It's not necessarily something that you think of when you think of JavaScript, so I was really keen to bring Chris in and have him talk to us, do a little demo of some of the stuff he's been working on. So we were just going to do a quick switch over of laptops. I'm with you in just a second. Right. Cool. Right. Yep, that's all good.
That's what you want.
That was my one, right?
I'll start with this demo. Oh, yeah, I'll start with it. I'll start with this, and then I'll go into the presentation space. Actually.
Chris, go over everybody.
Console.log hello world, I guess. Yeah, so I'm Chris Godber. I've just got a company I've set up called Alien Rabbit. This is a virtual gallery experience we created with Play Canvas and JavaScript. Play Canvas, has anyone heard of Play Canvas actually before? Yeah, someone over there. Play Canvas is it's like a WebGL sort of JavaScript-based game engine. I've been involved in working in it for about, I don't know, 15 years or something, I guess, on and off. Started off just as and basically the idea of this whole thing is like, yeah, it's just a virtual gallery, so it runs in the browser, and obviously this is just like on the Alien Rabbit website, so we can, you know, you can go on there, it runs in the web. It doesn't really work on mobile yet, that's quite difficult, but yeah. I just figured I'd start there. So let me get onto the actual, I'll talk a little bit more about myself, a background and all that. Where's the, go on. There we go. Sorry, I'm just really nervous. Yeah, browser. Okay.
Try to get to your slides now.
I'm just waiting for that. How do I close this again? I have to go off there and. Sorry, I just need to. Go on. There we go. There we go. There. Sorry. Right. So just get onto the slides. There we go. So click on slideshow. There we go. So it's me. It's my name. This talk is called Tips, Tricks and Trapdoors. So it's going to be a talk talking about obviously some of my experience in the industry, some of the sort of, also just talk about some of the negatives as well from the industry that I've had, or just in general, just like, I don't know, things you should try and avoid with when you're developing in general, to be honest. And then trapdoors as well. So a little bit about me. So I'm a computer science graduate from the Manchester Metropolitan University. I got what's commonly known as a drinker's degree, which is a third-class degree. But I don't really think it matters that much, to be honest. If you've got passion for coding, you'll do it. Doesn't matter, really. I'm a developer, but I also have an interest in poetry. I'm a writer. I've got some books here, which I can sell if anyone's interested. I'm a painter, so I'm in actual painting, so I paint pictures. I'm also an essayist. I'm probably sounding very pretentious now, but that is basically who I am. Not pretentious, but just do a lot of stuff. I consider failure to be something you just have to get used to. Everybody fails. There's no avoiding failure. That will happen. Being a developer is basically breaking things a lot until you fix them and it works perfectly and you're just like, yes. I have a history of mental illness, so I take benzos and Abilify for that. I think it's probably a pretty important thing to talk about. So I won't talk about it too much, but basically I have experience of bipolar disorder, and I've also had epileptic seizures in the past. Again, it's not really a problem unless it becomes a problem when you're working, I suppose. So yeah, so everybody is affected by mental health. Everybody has experience of burnout or depression or anxiety or any number of conditions. That's just a fact of life. Everyone's going to be touched by that at some point in their life. And yeah, just a little bit about my personal religious beliefs. So I consider myself a pantheist. It basically just means that I believe in nature. Nature is God. That's basically my belief system. I almost studied philosophy. So before I went to study computing, I was due to go and study philosophy instead. Still got an interest in that, so I like a lot of the German pessimism in general. So Chiron, a Romanian pessimist, Camus, the French existentialist, and Nietzsche. I just like reading them just as an escape, to be honest. Continental philosophy. I'm not really that interested in postmodern philosophy. It's very hard to read. The Deleuze Guattari and all that jazz. Anyway, so dev work. So I do a lot of different things basically. Wear a lot of different hats, as it were. So I've been an indie game developer for about 6 years, I suppose. I build and play, I suppose. I have to play test them. I build indie games which are released on itch.io. Also Google Play Store. My name on there is just Dr. Noir. I can probably show that after I got through the slides bit, basically. So I saw a video a while ago. I can't remember where it was, what channel it was on, but basically it was talking about, basically development's going to split into like 2 different major camps, like pretty much now where we are now. So there's going to be people who build the tools for platforms, and there's going to be the platforms themselves. And I think that's still pretty much, especially in the WebXR industry, that's still sort of, I think, where it's at. So I've started to I'm basically trying to create open source tools and also templates for developers. So I have my own YouTube channel. It's just called Dr. Noir, and I've been involved in that process for about 3 years of building that channel, giving tutorials away for free, essentially, and just experimenting. I think like you're talking about as well, like just experiment and put it out there and that sort of thing, basically. So yeah, I just do contracting and dev work. So I've been doing that for the last 2 years. Just some stuff about me. So hobbies and interests. I'm big into metal and classical music, basically. So Miss Sugar are my favourite metal band. Reading, philosophy, fiction, comics, classic literature, science fiction. I have a bit of interest in Russian literature, as I was living in Russia for 2 years. I was teaching English at an English camp called Recolata, so that was with my partner for 3 years, Yulia. Writing, so I, again, write and publish physical and audio books of fiction under Reading Environment Limited. That's a company I've co-founded with Naomi Valley, who's an artist in London. So this is just basically, I find I am most happy in general as a person when I'm given complete freedom to explore ideas and concepts. So let me be honest about this actually. So like, this does mean that I can, as a developer, sometimes I can suffer from a certain inability to multitask actually. So other people have told me this actually as well, so it's not just me being egotistical. I am a bit of a polymath essentially. So my entire approach as a developer is sort of creative development. So like I said, as you can probably tell, I've got a lot of interest in a lot of different areas. So yeah, just like that can mean that sometimes as a developer I can lose track a bit and spaghetti. I've got a longer form video where I talk about how tech and art sort of can relate to each other. It's called The Artist Engineer. I was talking in London a while ago. So just have a little exercise actually to see if anybody knows who these people are. So these are just some of my programmer heroes basically. Does anyone know who the person on the left is? Yeah, Ada Lovelace, first computer programmer technically. She's a mathematician, daughter of Byron. I hope everyone knows who the person in the middle is. Turing, yep. So he cracked the Enigma code. He was basically the foundation of modern computer science, famous for the Turing test. And then who we got on the right? Aaron Swartz. So Aaron Swartz is sadly not with us anymore. It was actually one of the most devastating moments of my life as a developer when I found out that what happened to Aaron Swartz. Yeah, it was tragic. He's like basically the key architect in Reddit, and pretty much a advocate for an open web, which is, I think, a very important question still now at this point in time. Yeah, so just a generally like a really innovative developer and one of the modern greats, I think, to be honest. Does anyone know the penguin on the left? Yeah, Linus Torvalds. So he's one of the sort of... actually, I need to find out more about Linus, actually. I've been watching a few of his talks, but I'm more engaged in Linux at the minute, but yeah. Then the guy on the right is a fictional character, actually. It's from has anyone seen The $1 Billion Code? It's worth watching. It's on Netflix. This is a character, a fictional character and he's in this film. It's a 3-part series called The $1 Billion Code. It's a really good series, actually. I recommend everybody watch it now. Go onto Netflix when you get back and just watch it because it's so amazing. It's in German, but it's probably the best ever film I've seen on just programming a bit, but then pushing an edge of sort of. It's one of the best series I've ever seen on experiencing burnout. Basically, it's like, and Yuri Muller. I sort of. Like I said, I've experienced burnout myself, and Yuri Muller is a character I've like deeply sort of identified with during the series. Yeah, and also if you want inspiration actually for the sort of VR and WebXR work, perfect model for that basically. I guess everybody knows the guy on the left and the guy on the right. Yep, Guilfoyle, Dinesh from Silicon Valley. And then I like this character from Bandersnatch. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but it's a sort of like a choose your own adventure interactive story, but on Netflix. Colin's a sort of crazy game developer, basically. Yeah, okay. So, and then Neo, of course, from The Matrix. I mean, it's a classic, of course. And Trinity, I guess, he's a hacker and programmer as well. And then I just put that on the same twice for some reason, because I forgot. So this is just like literally different places I worked. So the last 2 jobs I was doing was at a company called Blipper, also at iCandy. Alchemy Immersive in November, I did quite a lot of work there. They're a great company. I did a Green in Green Street, which you can find actually, greeningreenstreet.com. That's a WebXR experience. You basically go into a virtual, it's AR, so, and then this street map sort of like unfolds like this, and then you just sort of like click and it's like a guided journey experience basically. Worked for a long time in 2 jobs, associate senior developer for Desleon, a cybersecurity startup based in London. I worked for Sticky Pixels as a front-end engineer from January 2020 to May 2021. That was all while I was partly in London, partly in Moscow. I worked at my first junior dev role, proper one, was Pixel Inspiration, quite a good company in Altrincham. More Solutions as a systems developer, 2016, just at Stockport. I worked for Children's Charities, one of my main proper good job that I liked. That was web support officer, so that was very helping people directly. It was a mixture of technical support and all sorts really. And then yeah, from 2010 that's when I started just doing freelance web dev stuff. Basically just went to the Dole office and And like, I was like, I'm making a website for a mate. And they're like, yeah, you have to be self-employed then. So I was like, okay. And that was the story. That was that, really. This is quite, so a little bit of a video now. I don't know how well you'll be able to hear it, but it doesn't matter too much. This is just like a video of a bunch of work from fairly recent, but yeah, it just gives you a good sort of impression of some of the work, I suppose. I don't know if the sound's on. I think I'm not sure where that music's coming from, sorry. Where is that coming from? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I forgot there's like there's video streaming, so it would have just loaded. Yeah, sorry about that. There's too many tabs open, as they say. Okay, so carry on. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is just A-Frame's been around for a while. It's easy to get the grips of in terms of like web for building in VR. So in the last year and a half, I've sort of just been developing open source tools for using it, open source components basically. So this is just a sort of conception of how this feeds into, generally speaking, like WebXR in general, the development of WebXR as a platform, metaverse, all this sort of thing, Web 3.0. So we've got yeah, components, make them open source, blah, blah, blah. And then those are the key technologies, I think. Obviously, these are quite old technologies in some senses, but they are the fundamental still building blocks of the web. I think HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript and TypeScript, obviously. I tend to be, I'm not like a purist in terms of like just developing with the core languages. Obviously, I've used Node, I've used React, I've used Redux. Redux drives me insane, but it is, you know, it has its use, and yeah, but okay, so that's enough about me. I think I talked about myself enough, to be honest. So I'm just going to demonstrate A-Frame doing something. So this like demo I did for Geometry Audio, spinning Atom in AR. You can, if you've got phones, laptop, whatever, you can feel free to visit that link. It's like literally just a 3D model that rotates around the camera. In this case, well, just assume I'm a camera for a second. It just rotates around like that. I'll show the code. It's very simple. This is purely just using HTML and a bunch of CDM references, so it's nothing complicated. I built it in about, well, I don't know, for 30 minutes. Let's go. Can everyone see that all right, by the way, in terms of the code? Or might I have to zoom in a bit? There we go. Okay, so that's probably better. There we go. So, is that all right? Yeah, cool. So I guess everybody knows how HTML works, of course, but you just got like a bunch of CDNs, external CDNs there for minified A-frame, A-frame extras, which is quite nice. You get a load of extra sort of add-on bits that you can use for A-frame there. An A-frame AR, which is the AR script. This is, I've added the stats in because this is, so this attribute here, stats, I've just added that so I can get sort of like, if I was like testing it out, like obviously I made this pretty fast. Embedded is just means it's embedded. ARJS, the debug, and so it's quite, the thing I like about A-frame, to be honest, is that it's basically just like writing HTML essentially, except you're also, using the power of JavaScript as well, so there's extensibility and everything. VR mode, UI, enabled false. So basically that's just like, ascene is just, that's like the container for this code here. The A assets is just whatever assets you're going to be loading in. So in this example, I've got a GLB model core, which is just like a 3D model I designed really quickly. Music as well, and then just preload on there just to preload it. A entity, so yeah, A-frame basically works with an entity system. So I've got an attribute there, camera, look controls, which is defined already in A-frame, and then position 0, 0, 0, which means it's just positioned bang in the middle of the scene essentially. So doing anything to WebXR, you have to think spatially and visually. So all of it, you have to, it's sort of like cross-disciplinary because you need to understand a little bit of physics, you need to understand a little bit of design, you need to understand, it's essentially cross-disciplinary, which is what I like about WebXR, to be honest. Because it's, I'm someone who sort of, to be honest, I just like breaking the rules a lot, and if you're like one of those programmers who is sort of obsessed with trying crazy things, like WebXR is a really good thing to get into, to be honest. So yeah, this has got an animation attribute on it, and then just set the property to 0 on the x-axis, 360 on the y. So if, say, assume that I'm the camera again, it will just, once the model loads in, it will rotate around this way. And then set to loop to true, and then just the duration of that loop. And then, what's this bit again? Just trying to remember my own code. It's been a while since I looked at this. Entity position. Okay, scale 18. That's the scaling of the model. Animation mix is just there. That is a. Oh, where's that from again? That's from can't remember. Anyway, geometry is just a circle, just loads in a circle. Yeah, and then if you're going to load this up on your phone, like you can sort of see just a basic sort of magical 3D sphere, sort of like rotating around you, basically. Then just some lights added here, a entity light, and then close that tag. Pardon me. And close the body, obviously. Close the HTML. So that's all like referencing external JavaScript. So I could probably show. I don't know how long. How long have I got? Actually, I've got like.
How long do you need?
Because I can go, I'll go on to the next bit actually, and then I'll.
Can we, are you connected to this? Can we see the demo of that?
The which one?
As in the physical that demo.
You'd have to load it on the phone if to do it, because it doesn't really work on. I can show you it on the screen, but it doesn't. I mean, it'll show the webcam, but it'll. Yeah. I could try it. We could do it if you want, actually. So I'll go back. So if I.
Do you have your phone?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we could do that actually. Oh, that's fine.
Sorry.
I could.
This worked last time. Okay, sorry. I'll tell you what, if you want to see the demo,
yeah.
Chris after.
So it does that, but it will. I don't know if it'll load actually, but the Wi-Fi connection won't be. Yeah. So. Okay, so. This is just like a little bit of an overview on some current stuff I'm working on. This is a very ambitious thing. I'm just doing it just to try it out, basically, because I've been interested in more in sort of game engine programming. I watched a really good talk with the infamous John Carmack on Lex Friedman podcast. I'm just talking about game engine design. So I'm trying to build like a sort of game engine and templating system for building VR experiences with A-Frame, just because, why not? Just try and learn about that, I guess. And then Room Creator is a block-based map editor and room builder component, which is again built with A-Frame. So it's a component system, sort of like, essentially, a sort of basic Minecraft, essentially. So it's block-based, so sort of like Lego building, but in VR, essentially. And I've got quite far with that. That's random art generator. I've got this obsession in the last 2 years I've developed an obsession with generative art, generative 3D, generating basically 3D content in the browser. I've taken this quite far, probably too far with Solar Gold Rush, where I tried to build a generative space game, but with A-Frame and functional programming paradigm. So Solar Gold Rush is this crazy idea I had, which is way too complicated, but it does sort of work, of building a generative solar system game. A classic thing that I think all game developers have tried to do. I'm going to build the Elite in JavaScript, but it does sort of work. I'm currently working on City of the Damned. It's a science fiction game built with Twine. Yeah, and then I did RandGen, which basically is a procedural generation component. So that essentially just generates, you can generate either random OBJ models. So it's essentially, the primary purpose of that component library is just random distribution. So, and then parameters within that distribution. So, yeah. Okay, so this is just a little bit about my company. It's just Alien Rabbit. So we're just starting out really like a sort of a mixture of a traditional book publisher with like, you know, trying to build up these libraries, trying to do software, trying to do game dev as well. So it's sort of a mixture of, it's a publishing house essentially. So it's a big dream I've had for a long time, is to make my own games, but then do it in a team. At the minute though, I'm just working on my own. Like I set up the company with Naomi Valley, who's an artist down in London, but obviously, like I'm up here, she's down there, so, and she's not really a programmer, she's more an artist, really. So yeah, we're good to, if anyone's interested in contributing, just like pay per pull request. So I'll just create minor and major update feature lists. And then, yeah, feel free to contribute. It'll be good to get some contributions from people. And then, yeah, I'll just do a code review, test it, make sure everything works. And if it does, then we'll pay you, basically. Okay, so that's like the presentation bit done. If there is, I don't know what time we're on, actually.
Cool. Well, what I was going to say is, you've got a VR headset.
I do have a VR headset.
Obviously, you can put your video on at the same time.
Yeah.
So if anybody's got any questions for Chris and like wants some demos of like what you can do in VR, then what I suggest is we get a few more beers and then maybe you can demo to individual people some of the stuff, and then maybe go through like some of the code people are interested in particular projects.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Chris about like his career path? Because I think it's like you could get quite a lot of people who do websites and web apps, and I think it's quite interesting sort of seeing like this other kind of random crazy stuff that doesn't kind of fit into that thing. So does anybody have any questions for? Or do you just want to see the demos? Esteban, your question.
Yeah, I saw some. Do you use web components there? Because I saw some tags that the browser has no idea what they do, right? So I don't know much about web components. I've heard of them, but yeah, I guess you give some instructions to the browser to what to do with them, how to render things inside them. I think I missed, or I was trying to figure out that part. I guess the library does it for you.
Well, I mean, A-frame is similar to a lot of JavaScript ecosystems in the sense that a lot of what you are going to be creating has been done already. So, yeah, like, usually you just, I mean, pro tip for doing JavaScript a lot, there's no point always redesigning the wheel if you want to do something, obviously. So, like, that's part of the reason why with the component libraries I'm trying to do something new, because, you know, like, yeah, basically, I guess, if that makes sense.
I've got a question. If somebody wanted to start out, you've got a thing, is it on itch?
Yeah, it's like,
Is that a good place to start out if you want to start building little games or little kind of experiences in VR? Where would you suggest?
Yeah, the itch.io is an indie game space, really. It's quite hard to make money on there, but for starting out, it's a good place to start. Obviously, Steam is the main distribution, you know, software for games. Yeah.
Yes, actually, I have a question. So you mentioned you are building game engine in JavaScript. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it going to be 3D?
It is 3D, yeah.
How is that working? Because I met some people who try to build their engine in JavaScript with 3D, and usually it crashes if you try to build some like a big game. So how do you go about that?
I can quickly show the code for that if that's all right, I suppose. I've got it up, I think. I'll show the room create component first, because that's sort of more tidier version of the same sort of principles, I suppose. So we go to, this is all just like, this is all a compacted sort of, let me just look closer as well, and let's actually look at room code. So just registering the component, blah, 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 blah. And I use functional-based approach, so I just try and make functions that feed back into functions, basically, essentially.
Do you use any libraries, or how do you go?
This is depends on A-frame itself, but no, I just write it all myself, basically. So but well, I should say the first part of the code that I got was inspired by a dev post. I can't remember who the guy was. So it is like an iteration of an existing way that somebody did something. Okay, so it's just a for loop basically that you get the, and it works on X, Y positioning, and it just basically, it's always really hard to explain, especially when I haven't seen it for so long, but essentially, let me just, So we've got a load of variables here, constant let, so I tend to, I'm quite anal when it comes to constant let, so constant, obviously, you know, constant variable, and then let can be reassigned, so with A-frame, you always have, in the component generation, you have to develop a schema, so imagine if you've got this component, you've got it there, and then you want to give it these. These are the attributes that you can feed to that component, basically. So there's just a ton of options. So there's a lot of, you've got, like colors, textures, you can give it different textures. Then what data you want to load in. And then just basically an async function to load some data, which is here. It's just another function here. And then it, to wait this, and then it calls the create. So basically, it's what's the word for it again? It's sort of, it's the word recursive maybe. It just basically goes down, 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 down like that. I guess it's sort of imperative programming in a way. It's sort of a mix of imperative and functional, I suppose.
Last question, I promise. So would you say that like writing a game engine in JavaScript is easier than C++, or would you say that it would be better to just start with C++?
I mean, in all honesty, it'd be better to, if you want to work in the game dev industry, to do C++, because that's what's most widely used. The only reason I did this is just to see if it could be done, to be honest. Like, but yeah, most obviously game studios use C++. Only reason I'm really developing these libraries and these games is just to see if it can be done, I suppose. Just see how far I can push it, I suppose.
So I actually ask that mostly because I know with C++ you have lots of flexibility and you can write quite interesting physical functions.
Do you write C++?
I used to, sadly. And that's why I was kind of curious, because JavaScript seems to be much more intuitive. And, well, programming-wise seems to be faster, not, of course, compiling times. So that's why I was kind of curious. Is it like better to understand the concept, like because with C++?
I mean, it's faster, I suppose, with JavaScript, right? I suppose, because you can just run it in a browser straight away. I know, like I said, I'm no C++ developer. I've never really touched that language at all. But for people starting out, I think it's easier. Obviously, C++ long term is a far superior language, obviously, but JavaScript's good because you can just get it up and running. So cool.
Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. On that note, if you want to see a demo, come up afterwards and you can check out the headset and so on, and Chris can take you through some of the stuff. He's also got some books. If you would like to talk about what you do next time, please do talk to me, otherwise you'll be hearing from me again, and there's only so much I can do that without going crazy. So please just come and chat to me afterwards if you want to do a talk. And thank you very much, Chris. Yeah. Cool. Please do grab a beer, and now we're off. No longer live, so you can swear. So.